This is not the place to multiply examples of the ease with which sentences in non-Greek languages, when expressed in Ventrisian syllables, can be made to yield bits of some sort of Greek according to Ventris' system. Whether there be truly Greek in the real Linear B tablets or not, Ventris' system certainly enables quite a lot of some sort of Greek to be got out of them, but it is seldom free from difficult problems of interpretation. Take, for instance, such a longer tablet as tar 711, of which the initial sentence is printed by Ventris and Chadwick, docs page 335, as follows. O we de pu, ? Ke ki ro, o te wa na ka te ke, 85 ke wa da mo ko ro. They translate it this way. Thus, P (fem?) made inspection on the occasion when the king appointed Sigewas (?) to be a Demakoros. Palmer prefers to render it inspection carried out by Pu-ke-kiri when the king buried 85 Kewa Damoklos, interp 340. There is quite a substantial difference for administrative purposes between burying somebody and appointing him to be a village functionary. Docs page 390, SV Damo Koro. For the plausibility of the Ventris decipherment, the showpiece is probably the tripod's tablet, TAR 641 from Pylos, docs page 336, which some have argued to be by itself a sufficient proof of the validity of Ventris' theory. It was unearthed by Professor Blegen on 4th June 1952, but not examined by him till the spring of 1953, when he wrote about it to Ventris on the 16th of May 1953. On this tablet, TAR 641, the sign groups are accompanied by ideograms and numerals. The ideograms apparently representing vessels of different types, with or without feet and handles. Blegen wrote, "The first word, tripod, by your system seems to be tiripode, and it recurs twice as tiripo, singular ? The four-handled pot is preceded by ketorowe, the three-handled pot by tiriowe or tiriyowe, the handleless pot by anowe. All this seems too good to be true. Is coincidence excluded? Among the many plausibilities emerging on the Ventrisian side of the controversy, undoubtedly one of the most plausible is the first sign group of line 1 of tablet TAR 641, where we find Ventris' values yielding tiripode, followed after three other sign groups by a cauldron on tripod ideogram and the numerical symbol for 2. The Greek dual tripode would be correctly represented in a syllabary by tiripode. Thereafter, however, the plausibility thins out, for later in the same first line we find four sign groups evaluated as tiripo, eme, pode, or wowe, followed by an ideogram of a cauldron on tripod with 3 feet and 2 handles. These sign groups are translated by Ventris and Chadwick as one tripod cauldron with a single handle on 1 foot. Their italics here indicate some degree of doubt on their part. Now that translation twice flatly contradicts the relevant ideogram, which shows 2 handles and 3 feet. Even with the initial phrase of the first line, the impeccable dual tiripode is followed by the 3 controversial sign groups ai keu, keresio, weke. Ventris at first translated that as Aegeus, the Cretan, brings them. Later he was persuaded by Palmer to accept the version of Cretan work with goat decorations. But Palmer's version involves 3 scribal errors. 1. Aikeu is singular where it ought to be dual. 2. The word divider has to be neglected in keresio weke to make it Greek Cresio Werges, and 3. That form 2 ought to be dual and is not dual. The Pylos Tripod's tablet TAR 641 has 3 lines of signs, with a bit broken off from the right tip. On the top line there are extant 2 examples of the tripod ideogram, each with 3 feet and 2 lugs or handles, but the second having a less deep cauldron. Each of these 2 ideograms is preceded at some distance by groups of signs evaluated as tiripode and tiripo. The third system of sign groups on line 1 starts with a sign group valued as tiripo, and Ventris and Chadwick assumed the loss of a third tripod ideogram at the end of line 1, which at present ends with the sign doubtfully read as no. They supplement it with 2 signs, pere, to make the word no pere, which they think equals enopheles, useless. They assume that this word was originally followed by a third tripod ideogram and the numeral 1. From their photograph, plate 3b, facing P111 in docs, it is doubtful whether there is room for all they supply. Line 2 begins with a 2-sign group read as keto, thought to be equal to Greek pithoi, jars, followed by an ideogram, which they term dubiously ?wine-jar, followed by the numeral 3. There is room for skepticism whether the possible wine jar ideogram after keto and the numeral 3 did not form the true original end of the third word group. Skepticism is further aroused by the vagaries of the scribe's spelling. Taking the tablet as a whole, on 3 lines, the scribe has put word dividers wrongly thrice, twice in keresio, weke, once in apu, kekau meno, has written dual for singular once, the first mesoe, has put the singular for the dual twice, aikeu, and the first occurrence of keresio, weke, has twice misspelt me we yo with we, where no digama should exist, and must be wrong in either tiriyowe or tiriowe, which are reciprocally inconsistent. Thus, besides the 2 contradictions between ideogram and syllabic contents in the second phase of line 1, as translated by Ventris and Chadwick, one has to assume at least 9 errors by the scribe in 3 lines if one is to accept as valid the Ventris decipherment in this showpiece tablet, TAR 641, with its 30 sign groups yielding 16 lexical units, some of them occurring more than once.